you all to this meeting tonight to discuss the traffic calming plan for Cherrytree Drive. We can begin with introductions, and tonight from FCDOT we have Benaz, Grace, and Nicole. And from the Mount Vernon District Supervisor's Office we have Peyton Smith. And if any of the community task force members are logged on to tonight's meeting, they can introduce themselves before the Q&A following our presentation. And I think they'll probably take a few minutes to talk about why they started this process. Peyton, is there anything that you would like to add before we start the presentation?
Yeah, well, first, obviously, I want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight. I know this is both a long time coming and also has quite a bit of history. My understanding is that this effort went on maybe 10 years ago and didn't, I believe, even get to this point. So we're excited to see it here at this point. I'm excited to hear the different perspectives of everybody from the community on this. And I do also just want to note here, I understand that this is only one component of an overall strategy to help keep not only the residents on this street safe, but also the students as well. So with that, I'll kick it over to FCDOT to provide their presentation.
Okay, Benaz has a short presentation. She'll run through the slides, and then after we are done showing the slides, we'll go ahead and open it up for the task force to say a couple of words if they would like, and then we'll do a Q&A for all people that are logged on tonight. So, Benaz, if you want to go ahead and start.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting, and thank you all for joining us. Tonight, we are going to discuss the traffic calming program for Cherrytree Drive. So please note that this session is being recorded and may be shared on social media. Please hold all your questions until the end of the presentation, and then we would have instruction how to ask your question after the presentation. So tonight we are here to explain the traffic calming process, provide an opportunity for community feedback, and answering any questions you all might have. So let's begin with what traffic calming is. Generally, traffic calming is the installation of physical devices to reduce vehicle speed. These devices can be either vertical or horizontal. Vertical devices are driven over, such as speed humps showing up to the left, while you drive around horizontal devices such as raised median island, the image showing up to the right of the screen. And both types of devices make the road safer for drivers, pedestrians, and all other users. And we want you to know that during this process, we are not permitted to install stop signs. Here we have charts and images showing the effects of decreased speed. As speed decreases, visual acuity, field of vision, and depth perception increase. Also, with reduced speed, we come to significant reduction in the number and severity of crashes involving motor vehicles. So if you look at the slide here, we have the map of traffic calming projects throughout the county. There are over 200 projects resulting in almost 500 devices countywide. Every district has devices, and chances that you have driven over one is pretty high. So the upcoming program can be broken up into 5 steps. Step 1 is project initiation. Step 2, plan development. Step 3, community engagement. Step 4, ballot phase. And step 5, which is the final step, is project installation. And we go through each step one by one. So as you might know, all traffic calming projects are always community initiating. So the process begins with a request from the community to the supervisor's office. Once the request received, we will first complete a basic eligibility review. Next, we'll conduct the traffic study, and once it passes both the eligibility and traffic study, then the community will form a task force. There are eligibility requirements that need to be met, and they are it needs to be VDOT maintained road, have a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, be functionally classified as local, collector, or arterial, And if it is collector or arterial, it needs to be residential street. Once passing basic eligibility requirements, we move on to conduct a traffic study. For the volume criteria, we need between 500 to 6,000 vehicles in 24 hours, both directions combined. For Cherrytree Drive, we had 1,024, so we met the volume criteria. For speed criteria, the recorded 85th percentile speed needs to be greater than or equal to 35 miles per hour. This means that 15% of vehicles need to be traveling at 35 miles per hour or faster in at least one direction of travel. So the speed that we found was 38 miles per hour on northbound lane and 34 miles per hour on southbound lane, which means that Cherrytree Drive met the speed criteria as well. So plan development is the second step. In this step, we conduct a site visit in the field in order to develop a draft plan. Once we have the draft plan, we will meet with the task force to get feedback and then amend the plan if necessary. Once the task force is satisfied with the draft plan, homeowners directly adjacent to any proposed measures will need to sign off the placement of the device in order to move on to the next step. Here we have device placement requirements. Based on the guideline we have, we need minimum 300 feet between measures and from existing stop conditions. We need minimum of 150 feet from an intersection, minimum 150 feet for adequate sight distance with any device, and it has to be fit on the existing roadway. So we have to take into account any driveways, manholes, utilities, and we also count for the grade of the road. So based on those requirements, we were able to draft a plan and propose 1 speed hump and 4 speed tables on Cherrytree Drive, as you can see on the map here. And then the addresses listed are the ones that need to sign off because the device is adjacent to their home. Here we have a speed hump schematic. The speed hump is 12 feet long and 3 inches high at the center. There will be a white chevron in each travel lane and speed hump signs with a recommended speed of 15 miles per hour on each side of the speed hump. And here we have a speed table schematic. So speed table will be 22 feet long versus the 12 feet of speed hump. There will also be white chevrons and speed hump sign with the recommended speed of 15 miles per hour on each side as well. So step 3 is a community meeting. Which we are here tonight, and there is where we present the plan for the community to obtain feedback, and based on the feedback, the task force will decide whether they want to amend the plan or proceed to next phase. If the task force decide to move forward, we can move forward to ballot phase. So in ballot phase, each household in the ballot area will receive 1 vote, and it will need to send it directly to the district supervisor's office. The ballot period will be open for a minimum of 3 weeks, and the supervisor's office will tally the votes and notify task force of the results. In here, you can see an example of a ballot. The proposal devices will be listed on the ballot, and the community will be voting for the entire plan. And the task force here is responsible for distributing the ballot packages to everyone in the ballot area. So there are 3 ways to return your ballot by the deadline. One way is you can mail the ballot. You can hand deliver to the supervisor's office, or you can email it to the supervisor's office. Please do not return your ballot to the task force, and please use one of the methods listed above. So here we have the ballot area map for Cherrytree Drive. There are 79 ballots, and in order for the proposed plan to move forward, we will need greater than 50% of all households in the ballot area to vote in favor. So we will need 40 yes notes. And if we get to the quite number of yes votes, we move on to step 5, project installation, which is the final step. So traffic calming plan will be presented to Fairfax County Board of Supervisors for endorsement, and the resolution will be sent to VDOT. FCDOT will work with the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services to schedule installation. And finally, traffic measures on the plan will be installed. Thank you so much. Here is the end of the presentation. Now we can go to Q&A section. So you will have two options to ask your question. You can chat or speak. Once the chat item is activated on Teams, you can use it by typing your question. And if you want to speak, please click on raise your hand icon so that you can unmute. You can be unmuted once it's your turn. And if you are on the phone, please push *5 to raise your hand. When it's your turn, the host will call on you and you can ask your question, and then you need to push *6 to unmute. And after you're finished, please push *5 again to unraise your hand. Thank you so much.
So if somebody from the task force would like to give some background from the community side, you can just raise your hand and we will unmute you and you can speak for a few minutes. Otherwise, okay, it looks like Kevin has his hand raised.
Kevin, I'm gonna send you a request to unmute your mic. That should be coming your way.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me. Comms are good. Appreciate it. Thank you to FCDOT for the presentation today. One thing I would like to clarify, FCDOT, there are still 5 devices in this presentation. I believe we actually cut that down to 4 devices. We do not have the APFSs for the 3rd device dead center. And the task force decided that's okay. So hopefully you guys are tracking that. We did not, again, receive all the APFSs for that middle device, the one dead center. And the task force did talk about it. I believe we communicated to Peyton. So hopefully that got to you all. So at this point, the plan that we've been working off of and the community is familiar with is 4 devices. It's just cutting out the one right directly next to Continental.
Okay, the one at 23 and 26, or the one at 11 and 13?
The one 9113 Cherrytree and 9111 Continental.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will remove that. I'm sorry about that oversight.
No worries. I'm sure some of my neighbors are like, wait, I thought there was 4. But anyway, thank you for letting me have a couple minutes just to speak. I'm Kevin Diana, one of the members of the task force. As many of you probably know, or if you don't know, my husband and I started this process originally through FCPS. We were more concerned about some school signage when our daughter went to kindergarten at Washington Mill Elementary School over a year ago. She's now a first grader who's going to be a second grader soon. And so we had noticed that we lived here about 6 years at this point. And we started to notice the traffic more when we had to walk our child to school. And so we had reached out to Karen Corbett Sanders, who was our school board member at the time, and just said, hey, there's something going on with the traffic here, and we need to discuss because there's some challenges we're facing. And so so Karen put us in contact with obviously Representative Stork and a bunch of members from the police force, as well as the school principal, Brad Bennick, and basically said, hey, here's, we've known about traffic and speeding on Cherrytree for a while, because this is not the first time, I believe, that a speed study was done on Cherrytree. Of course, the previous task force, I think they didn't get this far in the process. And so we had reached out. The school board, Brad Bennick, did a really great job of running a campaign of sending emails to his teachers and to the school bus drivers, sent home flyers to parents who drive their kids to school, and really just said, hey, we kind of need to slow down a little bit, because we have more and more kids who are walkers nowadays. Because this neighborhood is kind of turning over. A lot more kids, a lot more younger families in this neighborhood, a lot of folks who have kids that will be going to or do attend the elementary school in our neighborhood. And so we started there. We've had the police force out a few times giving tickets. We've heard from the police force that the ability of those tickets to kind of hold up in court and stick is challenging because it's not necessarily fast enough speeds for folks, but surely 38 miles an hour is enough to injure a small child or even a full-grown adult. And so we wound up through this process working through FCDOT and Dan Stork's office, and Peyton, thank you for all your support here as well, and Steve and your team, to have a survey done on Cherrytree, and quite shocked how many cars we actually had on the block. And so we've been working this process now. As you can tell, the survey was done in May of last year, so we're over a year and a half at this point. And so we are excited to move this path forward. I know some of my neighbors on the line, have some concerns. You'll hear some questions tonight. We've addressed, I think, a lot of them, but it would be great to hear some from the answers from the county, from a more authoritative source perhaps than the task force members. But no one's ever really thrilled about the concept of having to do something like this. But it is for the safety of the students, not just our kids, but the kids at the school themselves. And so we hope to move this process, continue moving this process forward. One of the questions that we got, and Steve, this is just so you guys are tracking your team, and I know that we have a representative tonight from Mateo Dunn's office who's listening in. We have been in contact with Member Dunn and his team about signage, school signage in particular, because there's an elementary school on Cherrytree. There are only 2 signs really in both directions. It's called an S1-1 sign that indicates that there is a school, you're in a school zone. To be quite honest, I feel terrible that I didn't know that was a school sign. I thought it was a crossing sign, and I've been driving for over 25 years. And so, but that signage alone isn't probably enough. So for folks that are asking and wondering how about what is happening with the school signage component of this, obviously FCDOT is concerned about the road and the speeding on the road. FCPS is really the ones in charge of the signage program, and so we have been working with them, and I appreciate Member Dunn's representative to be on the phone today, and we're going to work that through FCPS. FCPS is waiting to see where we end up through FCDOT and the traffic calming before we start engaging further on signs and signage placement, because obviously, if the devices go in, the next question is where does signs go, and that is all on where the devices are, right? So that we're not conflicting. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say, and I appreciate everyone, and all the conversations we've had the last couple of months with everyone. Appreciate Steve, you and your team coming out, surveying multiple times on behalf of the task force and working with us, and Peyton again, thank you as well. So, and that's all thank you.
All right, thank you. And if anybody else has any questions, they can just go ahead and raise their hand, and we will send you the opportunity to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm seeing a hand from Fiona. I'll send you a request to unmute your mic.
Thank you. I appreciate your time tonight, and thank you very much. And I do apologize. I was late in joining, so I missed the beginning of this. So I do apologize if this is a duplicate question. And if you would rather me listen to the recording, I'm happy to do so. Have you covered how those speed tables and speed humps are being paid for, or if that cost is in any way going to come to the residents of the neighborhood?
No, we haven't touched on the funding for this, but no, it won't come back to the residents in this area. Basically, FCDOT uses what is considered like carryover or quarterly adjustment funds to cover the cost of the construction costs for these devices. So whenever there is a review of the current standing for the county's budget at each quarter, and at the end of the year, there's generally some funds left available from the budget. So we that's the source for the construction costs for these devices.
Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back on mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona.
Okay, the next question I'm seeing is from The number ending in, it starts 68, sorry, 207-415. I'll send you a request to unmute yourself.
And I do believe the attendee with the phone number starting 207-415-68 is unmuted. If you would like to or speak. 6866.
Hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Hey, so just a couple questions on the vote process. How soon after this forum can the team move forward or the community move forward with the vote? Is there a cool-off period, or is that just once the task force has finalized the coordination with the county, or how's that work?
Well, I mean, the task force should reconvene after this meeting and make a determination if they want to go to the ballot process. So if they, hear that there is some support that is expressed during this meeting, they can go ahead and go to the ballot process. If they hear that there is, no support for it, they might, want to reconsider. If they want to move forward, then they would let, the county know. We would send them some templates to work from to put together the ballot packets, and then it's just a matter of how fast they can get them out. So it kind of depends on the task force, but it would take probably a few weeks to get those ballots put together, assembled, and then dispersed.
Okay, and the dispersal is by hand or by mail? I heard how to return the ballots, and the options are, snail mail, hand delivered back to the county, or an email. But as far as the distribution, is that via mail or hand carry?
So it's going to be either by regular postal service mail or delivered by hand, one or the other. So we generally don't send these out electronically, but we can receive them electronically.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We also have the chat available. So if you don't have a mic or capability to speak, feel free to type in the chat and we can answer your questions that way as well.
Okay, I saw Patrick's hand up first. I'll send you a request to unmute yourself.
Thanks. Quick question about the quarterly adjustment funds that fund the proposed speed humps and things. Where do those, so I'm just kind of trying to follow the dollars here. Where do those quarterly adjustment funds come from?
So that comes from the county's general budget. So they have,
Okay.
A yearly budget.
Yeah.
And whenever they hit their, first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter review of their spending,
Yeah.
They generally have some funds left over. The funds have been derived from a transportation fund. So there's been some discretionary funds from that this particular fund.
How's the transportation fund funded?
I don't know if that one was just from the county's budget or if it was from a bond. I believe it was from the county's budget, but I'm not positive.
Okay, so the county's got like a pot of money then to spend on these sorts of measures. Okay, how does the county fill that pot of money?
Well, like I said, it was either, from their the county's budget, which is, obviously derived from, the taxes that the county assesses, or from a bond, a specific transportation bond. I don't remember for sure the source of this particular fund.
That's just what I wanted to highlight, was that there's really only one of two ways that the county here is getting this money. So it's either coming from a bond or it's coming from taxes, which of course we all here in the neighborhood pay. So when it comes to how these are paid for, I think it's very important that people realize and understand that this is coming out of your pocket. And that as we discuss as a neighborhood how to move forward, we all get our annual assessments and all that. We all see what the county charges to live here, which is fine. We all obviously bought property here and choose to live here, but just to sort of make that clear to everybody was really kind of the path I was hoping to walk down there. So appreciate your input and the facts there that you laid out. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, the next question I saw, I think the hand might have gone down, but I'm seeing the order as Bob as next. I'll send you a request to unmute your mic.
All right, can you hear me?
We can, yes, Bob.
Okay. I'm a resident of the community. I live on Volunteer Drive, which does not show up as being in the study area. I'm also a retired FCDOT employee, retired 5 years ago. I also was a transportation commissioner during some years when Jerry Highland was our board of supervisor. I have some questions about the process, because it seems to me that the impact of these traffic calming devices will drastically affect Volunteer Drive and maybe to a less extent Old Mount Vernon. And so I was wondering who established, I believe I read in the RTOP guidelines that the the study area is established by FCDOT. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. It seems to me that most of the, and I've lived here since '85, most of the people on Cherrytree, on that section between Mount Vernon Memorial Highway and the school are, during the school year, are school related. The intersection at the highway is also a problem area as well. But the school traffic, I think, is going to be easily diverting to Volunteer and possibly to Mount Vernon, Old Mount Vernon. And I think the study area should have included Volunteer Drive, north of Cherrytree. It includes it south of Cherrytree, but the people down there will probably come right out Volunteer to get to Old Mill and the signal. So I'd like to know why Volunteer was not included, and even Westgate, because you can remove yourself from going over these devices if you come in on Cherrytree and turn on Westgate. You can eliminate those altogether. I have some other questions, but that's my primary question to start with.
Bob, you said you used to work for FCDOT, is that correct?
Yes, I remember you.
Yeah, I'm sitting in your old office right now, so.
Okay,
Yeah, we do establish the ballot area, and we, basically use the determination of if people who live on an adjacent street but have other means to access the transportation network, then they're generally not included in the ballot process. So we don't anticipate displacing a whole lot of traffic through this process. And then we are just saying that those that live on the street or on streets that have to use the road to access their homes are the ones that would probably we look to see to participate in this ballot process. So, I mean, it's not an imperfect way of doing this. We can't, anticipate all of the driver responses whenever they start, uh, you know, coming into these, changed environment on the roadway. But, our anticipation is that we don't think we're going to displace much traffic through this process. And then we are just including the people that have to use Cherrytree, live on Cherrytree, to make the determination of if the devices are put in place.
okay, well, it seems to me that there's other people that are included in this area. If you could show that drawing again that shows the study area, um, there are people on the other end of volunteer that are included, and they'll simply avoid the devices and come right out volunteer. And they may not do that right now. So I think there's a shift right there as well. And they're getting a chance, is my understanding, they would get a chance to vote and have a ballot, but we would not on volunteer the rest of the way. I would
But
like that to be reconsidered if possible.
Banaz, if you can pull that ballot map up, please. I think that's what Bob is referencing. So, I mean, we can take it under consideration. We can, discuss it with the supervisor's office. Like I said, the typical way we draw these is if people have to drive over the device to get home. So, we do find other ways for some people to reach their destination or to connect to the transportation network at large. And if we do find that people have other routes available to them that aren't, a huge inconvenience, then they're generally not included in the ballot process. But we can have a conversation with the supervisor's office regarding that particular concern that you have.
All right. Can I ask another question?
Yes, you can, Bob.
This is being done in the prior to involving the school in the decision making. It sounds like it's the contact with the school is going to be made later in terms of what happens under this project versus what the school needs. And that also includes is rerouting of buses. I would think the school would potentially prefer not to have to go over these devices with the buses. And can they still be included in this process, even though they have, somebody said earlier that they've decided that they don't want to at this time?
I do believe the task force has, interacted with the, the people at this particular elementary school. And, it doesn't sound like there's any concern. We will reach out to, staff from Fairfax County Public Schools whenever we feel there might be a concern, especially if we are, adjacent to their property with the device. We aren't here, we are on the approaches, but I don't think, the locations are so close that it's going to have a major impact on their routing through to the school location.
Okay, Steve, I think Kevin said he can address that as well if we want to unmute Kevin.
Okay, all right, Kevin.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Hey, Bob, on the concern that you have on the rerouting of buses, even if the county was to so first of all, the county is not indicated that they're going to reroute buses. The shortest route to success, right, because the buses are used for multiple schools, so they're always motivated to get in and get out as quickly as possible. So to reroute them through Volunteer or down Westgate, down Volunteer, and then back up Cherrytree, is actually adding time onto the school bus route. And even if they do that, they will still hit a speed bump off of Volunteer onto Cherrytree, because one of the proposed devices is just north of where Volunteer and Cherrytree meet. So even then, they would still have to go over them. So it is not there's no indication that the buses would be rerouted to get a different way, because it's the quickest route to success is from the main road, right, and then back to the school and back out. So hopefully that addresses that.
Well, I think one of those was taken out already from this diagram. There are two on Cherrytree near where you live, and there was only one. If they turn right out of the school, they only go over one. They turn left on Volunteer, they're done. They have none. They just go over one. If they go out, continue to go out Cherrytree, it'd be two they hit. And it used to, the schools over the years have been coming up Volunteer and down Volunteer, depending on where the kids are located and have to be picked up. That's not unusual for them to come and go on Volunteer. They, every so often you see them on Volunteer, even now. But I think that that's something that really should be considered. The main reason you're having problems, I believe, on that road is because of the school, and you're not including the school in these recommendations until later. That doesn't make sense to me.
So there are other members of the task force who are not on my section of Cherrytree, who are further down Cherrytree, Steve Miller being one of them, and Alexis DeFranco, who are closer to Volunteer. I would think that they have a slightly different perspective of whether this just, I know that was one of the questions that has come up, thanks Bob for raising it here too, of is this just really a school problem? And I agree, while the school is a higher influx on where I live on Cherrytree, is a higher influx of cars back and forth throughout the day. There's perspective from our other neighborhood, neighbors in the neighborhood further down Cherrytree that this is not just a school problem from Mount Vernon Highway to the school, but also from Old Mount Vernon, and people who cut through. Cherrytree has been used historically as a cut through for folks who live in Yacht Haven, Riverwood, and neighborhoods beyond Westgate and Old Mount and Mount Vernon Forest. And so and there have been plenty of and conversations with folks on Cherrytree. On the southern side of Cherrytree, on around the bend past the school, heard of a few stories of folks having cars hit trees and things. So I do think it is, yes, I agree with you that there's a higher flow of cars on where I live because of the school. I don't think that is singularly just on this section of Cherrytree, though.
Yeah, Banaz, if we can just go back to the device map that shows the locations, that might be a little bit more helpful as far as showing where our current devices are. And Bob, is it all right if we move on to the next question? And somebody else says that we have a couple
Yes,
of people who
absolutely.
ask.
I'd like to be
All right.
involved with the task force group if Kevin can get that to work. I'd like to come to one of their meetings.
So I think you can, put in the chat your contact information if you want to, or try to get a hold directly of one of the task force members that are on.
All right. Well, there was a Chris I communicated with earlier today. I don't know if he's on or not.
That's my husband. Yep. So Chris and I are on two separate devices. He's with our 11-month-old in the other room, and I'm in the office. So Bob, we have your information, and we're happy to engage afterwards. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks.
Thank you very much, guys. So we do have a written in question here from IW. How long will it take to build each speed hump table? Will there be much disruption to the street?
So if the 4 devices are supported through the ballot process, I think that they could probably be built out in one day. I think they can handle installing these 4 devices in one day. At most, it's going to take them 2 days. So what basically they do is they'll install half of the street, one direction at a time, and they'll let traffic, route around the part that they're working on. And when they finish that half, then they shift their work site over to the other half and route traffic over the device half that they've just installed. So we always keep traffic flowing through the work site, but it shouldn't take them more than, one, maybe 1.5 days to install the 4 devices.
Okay, thank you, Steve. The next hand I'm seeing is from the number ending in 9123. I'm going to send you a request to unmute yourself.
I appreciate that. I'll withdraw my question so we can move forward. It was largely answered since I raised my hand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question I'm seeing is from Kirsten. I'll send you a request to unmute your mic.
I got it. Sorry. All right. So thank you. I do have actually a few questions here. I know that my husband and I have been talking a lot with the task force. We've also been talking with a lot of neighbors down here. For those of you on the call, we're at the end of Volunteer and Continental. So we've been kind of talking to a lot of people down here about what's going on. First question for FCDOT for you guys. So we know, talking to everyone in the task force, that specifically the signs, like watch for children signs and $200 fine signs, were excluded from our current plan because they are only known to reduce traffic 2 to 3 miles per hour. And given those high speeds recorded, it doesn't really get us down into the safety zone. But there's been concerns from people that the current posted 25 mile per hour signs, when you're coming off, Old Mount Vernon and everything, are poorly placed so that people don't even see them and realize they're leaving these higher speed zones. So it is, one of the concerns is maybe those signs would help, the watch for children signs and everything would be beneficial if the 25 mile per hour signs were relocated. Those signs are probably put where they are currently because of, standard procedure, but they're clearly not user friendly in terms of really people seeing them. So is there any chance to get those 25 mile per hour signs either located, additional signs added, and then also maybe these watch for children signs?
So the 25 mile an hour speed limit sign would be something that VDOT would need to take a look at. They are, these are VDOT maintained roadways, and they are going to be the organization that places those signs and determines where they go. So that's something that possibly the supervisor's office can help reach out and discuss with VDOT. to see if they can consider a sign relocation for Cherrytree Drive and their 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs. I'm trying to look to see where they are located. I'm not sure we're going to get them moved too very much, but that would be something that you would need to talk with VDOT about.
Okay, and would we have to go through the task force group currently, or should we, should a new group maybe champion that?
I mean, anybody can reach out to VDOT, or you can, Peyton, would they be able to reach out to you? And could you possibly pass on this information to VDOT to see if that can be looked at and considered?
Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely reach out to me on that, and I'd love to help shift those signs, and maybe we could also look at the Watch for Children signs at the same time. Although, Steve, I know that one's going to be in your wheelhouse. One question I would have for you, though, would be where exactly you'd want those signs relocated. I know VDOT sometimes asks me that, when I mention, hey, we're interested in shifting it a couple feet. They always want to know exactly where the interest would be. So maybe we can connect offline about that and get something to VDOT.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it's just when honestly, most people don't even realize that there are 25-mile-per-hour signs because how they're placed and with the shrubbery that's around them and stuff. So, that was, that's things. But yes, Peyton, we'll definitely connect on that. Next question that we have from this group is, so we've now kind of removed that one device and by the school, the nearest one to the school. And there is a kind of a common belief going on that once people go over speed bumps, they kind of accelerate a little more aggressively in order to make up the time that they've perceived that they've lost. Is there any concern by the group that now that there's not that extra device there, that we've just more or less created a little runway from the corner up to the next farther down device that people are going to be kind of gunning it? That's right by the school.
Right. And, with some of the road features, hopefully they're not going to have too much of an opportunity to regain their speed with the curve of the road by the school. That should help slow down a little bit and make up for the fact that we did lose that one device location. And then also, these are things that, over time, we hope will, make some modification to people's driving habits when they know that devices are placed there. And if they do accelerate, then they realize after, driving over them a couple of times, they're just going to have to brake again. So, hopefully if their initial response is to accelerate on the straightaway where the device was not placed, over time, we are hoping that they'll adjust that driving habit and just maintain a slower speed as they approach those devices.
Now, has that been statistically shown with other devices placed?
I mean, most of the projects that we have completed, we are finding that the road would not then requalify for the program. So we are, bringing that 85th percentile speed down a little closer to the posted speed limit. We aren't obviously getting an 85th percentile speed down to 25 miles an hour. I don't think that's really, a reasonable expectation, but we are getting them down so they would not qualify for the program again.
Okay. I do have two more questions here. FCDOT's flyer states that there are some increased noise levels that are to be expected with the speed bumps. Do we actually know what some is? Because we've gotten that question.
No, I mean, I think you just need to kind of, use your own ability to, judge what a bump like that is going to do to different vehicles as they drive across it. So obviously, like a lawn service vehicle that's, pulling a trailer with, lawnmowers on the trailer is going to make some noise as it crosses over. People are going to, brake and accelerate as they come to and leave the device. So, you're going to have some braking and acceleration noise that's going to be associated with it. That's one of the reasons why we do ask for sign off from the property owners that are immediately adjacent to that location.
Okay. Just so everyone on the call knows that when you do research from other states, Department of Transportation's, they do state that the increase in noise is kind of the equivalent of running your garbage disposal. And so that is considered a 6 decibel increase of what's going on. So just going to state that out there. And that's just for cars. That's not for trucks and stuff like you stated. So my last question though is that it's been very clear that any neighborhood from that chart can pretty much petition the district supervisors to get this study started to install calming devices and everything else that's going on. My question revolves around are these devices monitored in any way to ensure that NFPA code for EMS is still being met?
I'm not sure what exactly you're asking us to monitor.
So NFPA code for EMS pretty much states that within their jurisdiction, that is their response time is to be 300 seconds. That's 5 minutes. And that traffic calming devices like speed humps and bumps actually add to their response time as it states on the FCDOT flyer. And so it just seems like there needs to be some sort of monitoring of where all of these devices are being added. Because right now, if that map that was shown earlier in the presentation, they seem to be dotted all over the place, which really creates a hazard for EMS to respond in the time that they're expected to respond in. Otherwise, then loss of life increases that probability. And so just was looking to wonder how it's being monitored. I mean, right now in the area, there was the proposal on Old Mill. We've got them on Gateshead. We've got them in Zedler, on Woodley. They're dotted all over the place. And if we keep adding them, is there any way to make sure that we're ensuring that EMS has the ability to respond? I mean, EMS was just in the area this morning. I mean, I had a pull over for them as they scream down Old Mill over to Old Mount Vernon, and that road's extremely narrow to make way for them. And I'm just wondering what's being done to ensure that they respond, because they respond daily in the areas.
So we do send our device locations to Fairfax County emergency services, to fire and rescue. They are able to plot them. We have not had any concern brought forth from them regarding, an overall diminished response time for, fire and rescue. We were just on a joint meeting with them, I think 2 weeks ago, and they seem to still endorse this process.
Okay, so the project does go in front of Fire and EMS for their kind of say or blessing as well?
We send the device locations when they are being installed to them so that they can plot them on their GIS application and, be able to, sufficiently, take in consideration whatever impacts they might have for their routing process.
No, I hear that, but you're saying they get the information after it's installed. But if any neighborhood can get them installed, and then it's EMS is reacting to the device installs instead of having a ability to weigh in. Because if all of a sudden all these devices are installed and they can't report on time, no matter what they plot, then it doesn't seem like it seems very disjointed that, you know, anyone can petition to get them installed without taking into account the response of EMS as a holistic viewpoint.
So they did used to participate in the process at the beginning, but they backed out of that, you know, quite a few years ago. So they asked us to be informed as the devices are going in place.
Okay, so they opted out, and so they just deal with
Of
the
the planning
repercussions
process,
of
correct.
the planning process. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and we do have, I'm sorry, go ahead, Grace.
Okay, we just got a question in from the number ending in 9353. So I'm going to send you a request to unmute yourself.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is John Hurley. I'm the Public Safety Committee Chair of the Mount Vernon Civic Association, and I'm in speaking to you both in that role, and also I'm and my wife are 20-year residents of Cherrytree Drive, and but I would like to say that on behalf of the Civic Association, every sense that I have had at meetings has been a positive one towards the concept and the implementation. And also, I think that our Public Works Chair is here also this evening. Will speak to you shortly. And he really has the overall responsibility within the association. A lot of good points have been raised, and I think there's some questions that have come up that I frankly were not aware of, and they should be answered. But every sense of it is there is a need. There's a tremendous amount of more traffic, particularly private vehicle traffic, and if someone doubts that, I would suggest coming to the corner of 235 and Cherrytree Drive, and between 8:15 and 9:15, and I think you'd be amazed at the variety of traffic and the amount of traffic. And a lot of people are trying to do the right thing and to be safe, but I think anything that will assist in the safety of motorists, students, bicyclists, bus riders, etc., should be implemented. So I appreciate the opportunity to get on. I believe Mr. Yondak will be speaking to you shortly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, and we do have a written-in question here. How do we take input, or how do you take input from people who don't live in the voting area but walk with their dogs through this area frequently, sometimes multiple times a day? The constant between Mount Vernon Memorial and the school presents a danger when we are crossing the street. And that question is from Tom.
I mean, probably the best way would be to reach out to the supervisor's office and see if they can put you in contact with the task force, so you can, give input to the task force in that manner.
Okay, thank you. And Bob, you do have a question in here. I believe Peyton did respond, but Bob asks, how can we get copies of tonight's presentation?
So we did send the presentation to the supervisor's office. We're asking if we can modify the presentation. I think we did have the the map here that did not show the correct locations. And Peyton, I think we would want to make that change before we send it out. So you will be able to reach out to the supervisor's office here shortly and get a copy of the presentation.
Also, I believe since we are recording this presentation, all who have attended that have Teams can access it once it's done recording. We will also try to make this available, recording available publicly. Unfortunately, it's taking a little bit longer than usual. So once we do have that recording available, we will make it available to Peyton. And so you can reach out to Peyton and ask for the recording once it's available.
And if we're waiting for anybody else to ask questions, Banaz, do we have like the next steps listed on the slide for people to look at, or contact information for the supervisor's office or for FCDOT? If we could share that on the screen. So after this meeting, if anybody does have any further questions, they can reach out to FCDOT directly. They can send an email to dotinfo@fairfaxcounty.gov with the subject line of Cherrytree Drive traffic calming, and list your question or concerns there, and it will find its way to us and we will respond as soon as we can. Or you can call at 703-877-5600 and your call will be directed to one of the staff members on tonight. You can also reach out to the Mount Vernon District Supervisor's Office. Their contact information for email is mountvernon@fairfaxcounty.gov. Again, use Cherrytree Drive traffic calming in the subject line, or you can call 703-780-7518 and ask to speak to somebody about the traffic calming process for Cherrytree Drive. And also for the task force, your next step would be to reconvene and determine if you want to go ahead and go to the ballot process. If you do, just reach back out to Peyton at the supervisor's office. Let them know if you want to move forward, and we will send to you the templates to work off of to create the ballot packets for dispersal to the people in the ballot area.
Okay, thank you, Steve. We do have Jed. He has a written in comment. I take this opportunity to thank the FCDOT team for their engagement with our community on this proposal and process. And I also thank Peyton from the supervisor's office, and most especially thank you to our task force members, Kevin, Chris, Steve, and Alex, for their time, concerns, and efforts for an informative, deliberative process. And thank you, Jed.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any more questions, so I guess we will close down for tonight. Again, if you do have any follow-up concerns or questions, go ahead and contact us by email or by telephone, either the supervisor's office or FCDOT directly. So we'd like to wish everybody a good night and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.